And I have been in the role for a little over 24 months. City Year is an organization that really works on building the next generation of leaders while serving our young people in school. It's an organization that's really like built on a whole bunch of traditions. So when you think about camp, the police department, the military, you don't think about City Year, but you should, because it's built on those same traditions. A lot of those traditions are meant to drive connection to people. We operate from the value of Ubuntu. And for those that don't know, this is a term from the Zulu tribe from South Africa that translates to, I am a person through other people. My humanity is tied to yours. And so one of the traditions that we have at City Year that helps us really connect and inspire and share our humanity is called Our Life's Work. So today I'm going to share my story of servant leadership through sharing my story of my life's work. I am a person that doesn't believe that servant leaders are born. I think they are created through our experiences and through our journeys. I have these tenets of servant leadership. There's 10 of them that I use to guide my work because they're lessons that I have learned from some amazing people in my life along the way. My husband does not like sell instead of tell. He says it's offensive, but really what I mean by that is like, how do you think about collaborating with people? How do you bring people into the fold? How do you look not only from your perspective, but from their perspective, which my husband says is not sell instead of tell. I am not a Milwaukee native. I am from Wynne, Arkansas. I moved to Milwaukee when I was 4, although I consider this to be my hometown. If you could all stand up and see this other screen, it'd be a much better picture. But this is a picture of my mom and my 4 siblings. My mom was a single mom of 4. And why my mom is so special to me and taught me so much about servant leadership is my mom's mom, my grandma, did not like her. I feel like my grandma had disdain for my mom, and we never knew why. My mom lived in a world where she was not allowed to dream. And so I have the most amount of love and respect for her because as a single mom, she took these 4 kids and she went on a journey. She was part of that migration up north to find better work and a better life. And she gave up the life that she knew to make a better life for us here in Milwaukee. So when I was 4, my mom moved all of us to Milwaukee. That handsome young man in the picture is my stepdad, who came into my life about 4 years after we were here in Milwaukee and welcomed my mom and her 4 children with loving arms. And in this space is where I really learned about how you cultivate trust, how you think about others and not yourself. We are Southern Baptists through and through. And I think in that space from my parents, I learned how to act with humility and how to lead with humility. And those are tenets that I carry out every day in my life. I think my dad taught me as a servant leader how to think long term, right? He wasn't thinking short term, taking on this mom and her 4 kids. And I will say that 3 of us were very good and 1 person was naughty, who shall remain nameless. I was a student of Milwaukee Public Schools. One thing that, as Deanna shared, you will not learn on LinkedIn about me is that I wasn't a great student. Deanna, I hope you're timing because I forgot to set mine. I wasn't a great student. I have this PhD, which I think makes people believe that you are smart, you are intelligent. I think it's just an act of perseverance, in my opinion. I did not learn to read until I was in 4th grade. As a matter of fact, I say I was so good at 3rd grade, Milwaukee Public Schools allowed me to do it twice. And through my experience in school, the reason that I learned to read was about my 4th grade teacher, Mrs. Bell. Mrs. Bell was a jewel. She invited me into her family. She believed in me until I could believe in myself. And she is the reason that I am standing here today. So as a servant leader, she was willing to act with humility. She was willing to sit alongside of me until I learned the things that I needed to learn to be whole. As I said, sell instead of tell really means seeing who that person is and giving them what they need. She did that for me. She cultivated a culture of trust in that classroom that we had. I've taken that lesson and tried to cultivate a culture of trust in every organization that I have had the privilege of leading. Ms. Bell valued diversity in our classroom and taught me that who I was and taught my classmates who we were was exactly who we needed to be. This is the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where I attended college. I will say that's an interesting story. I did very well in high school after I learned to read, of course, and thought that I was going to leave high school and be a Navy SEAL. The problem with that was one of the most critical skills that you need is to be able to swim. I can't swim, y'all. And so my best friend in high school, when we talk about having that community and her servant leadership, drug me to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, where I joined Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. And in this sorority is where I learned about friendship. I learned how to work with people from different groups. I know we say that that thing that happened in the 70s was a show, but it was actually people's real lives. And as a Black woman growing up in the 70s, what I learned was that I needed to assimilate, to survive, to move ahead. And what this group of women taught me was that who I was okay. They created that culture of trust. They created that space for me to be able to show up as my whole self. I spent 20 years of my career working in Milwaukee Public Schools. It was a gift. It was a pleasure. And all of these pictures are pictures of young people that I had the privilege of serving, who taught me how to be humble, who taught me that it was my responsibility as a servant leader to create a culture of trust, that I needed to think long term because I couldn't do a quick fix. I think in education we often think about this sense of urgency, right? And that urgency leads us to take action to solve a problem that may not even exist or that we created. And I think what I learned from working with young people is that it is okay to stop. It is okay to think. It is okay to give yourself those moments of contemplation as a leader so that you can take action and your action leads to the impact that you want. Don't let a sense of urgency lead to making foolish steps. That's what I learned from working with these young people. I have 1:30 seconds, Dick, so I'm not going to quite get to where I wanted to get to, but I do want to point out that in that middle picture is a picture of me and Kyle Richards from The Housewives, and that picture is there as a reminder. Yes, I was at a conference. It was great. Is a reminder that as servant leaders, sometimes we convince ourselves that that leadership means that we have to suffer. It doesn't. As a servant leader, you will serve best when you are whole, when you take the time that you need to care for yourself, because in caring for yourself and making sure you are ready, you will be the best of service to others. So that's why that picture is there. And yes, I watch every Housewife franchise, and I'm not ashamed. I'm going to skip right to the end. That was my doctoral journey, because right now I have the privilege of serving at City Year Milwaukee. And one of the things we talk about is always, why do you serve? And I think every day as servant leaders, we have to continue to ask ourselves why we do what we do. And I serve because I have a deep desire for all scholars in this community to have the best opportunity to live the life that they choose. Not the life that other people say they should choose, but the life that they choose. I believe we have an obligation to ensure that all scholars are prepared for life with all the tools they need to be successful, and they feel empowered to show up as their whole selves. So every day, I wake up as a servant leader, and I remind myself, this is why I'm doing what I do, because the work is going to be hard. So I'm going to end. This is a prayer from St. Freeze's that talks about service. And so I'm going to ask everybody in this room to read this with me. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I thank all of you in this room for the service that you provide to others each and every day. Have a great rest of the day, and we're going to bring Deanna back up.